Hey everyone, this is Abby from the Firefly Hook. I am here to answer your questions that you asked me on Instagram and Facebook. So, I don't know, I think this is going to be really fun. I can't say the person's handle name very well, so I'm sorry, but this is a great Instagram question. How did you pick your Instagram name? So the Firefly Hook is my business name, so that's why it's my Instagram name. But we chose the Firefly Hook. It took a lot of time, more the time than you'd think, to pick a name. We had, I don't know, a whole list of things for Firefly. I knew I wanted hook in the name because hook, right? Crochet. And it was very concrete. It's a concrete word, so I wanted everyone to know this is what I'm about. We're about crocheting. Firefly came up because it's whimsical and fun, and you don't know when you're watching fireflies in the field, you don't know when you're going to see them pop up and disappear. I really liked that about fireflies. So another name in the running was Juniper, and I still really like that. I think it would have fit as well. But I knew I wanted to teach kids and adults, and I felt like Firefly could cater to both more than just Juniper or another. I can't remember all the names, it's been like 5 years. But, so there's the reason why, the Firefly Hook. Okay, so the next question, there's two people who asked similar questions. One was, where does your inspiration come from for your designs? And the other, what inspires you most in your designing? So those were both on Instagram. Those are really great questions. I think nature mostly inspires me. I have a lot of designs that I try and make them look like leaves, or try and make it feel like this mountain I saw, which sometimes is more difficult than it sounds. I think another thing that inspires me is the yarn itself, probably more often than anything else. A lot of times I'll have a yarn, like, I have this project sitting on my lap, and I'll think, I want this to be a cowl or a shawl or a sweater or whatever, and I start working with it, and the yarn tells me this is not what I was made for. Crochet isn't as drapey as knit, and I think you have to be more careful when you crochet to make sure that the yarn is doing what you want in relation with the stitches you're using or the finished product you want. So a lot of times the yarn itself is what kind of inspires me and moves me to make something else. I think the hardest thing is when I have yarn given to me and they want a specific thing made with it. So they say, here's yarn, make a cowl, and then the yarn doesn't want to be a cowl. I feel like I get into a big fight with it. I still try and make it work, especially if that's what whoever I'm designing for wanted, and make it beautiful for them. But I would say the biggest thing that inspires me is the yarn, and next to that would be nature itself. Okay, the next two questions, because I feel like they play into each other. One of them was from my Facebook group. How long does it typically take you to write a pattern? I don't know how you do it. I find it so stressful. And another person on Instagram asked, do you create patterns? And if so, how can a non-creative person make her own patterns? So yes, I do create my own patterns. I think you have to be creative to make your own patterns. And I think just by asking the question, you are creative. If you work with yarn at all, or you do anything, I think all of us are creative in our own way. But writing patterns is tricky, especially the first couple times you do it. The other question asked how long it takes to write one. It really depends. If it's something similar to something I've designed, it doesn't take as long, and a lot of it is the formatting of the whole pattern. So once I've figured out this is how I want to write patterns, I've worked with yarn companies and magazines and look at the Craft Yarn Council, how they standardize their patterns. Everyone does it a little different. Once I kind of have my format down, then it's just plugging in all the new information for this new design. So you have your, if you're missing something, if you didn't fill in the gauge or the hook information or the yarn information. If it's something simple, like for a beginner, it doesn't take long to write, but a lot of times you're trying to give more information than you normally would because you're thinking of a beginner. If it's a new stitch or a complicated design, it takes more time, and then it takes more time to test as well. So there's a lot of factors in how long it takes to actually write a pattern up. It isn't always my favorite part. I have to bribe myself with chocolate usually, and Mumford & Sons have to have that on while I'm writing a pattern. So hopefully that helps, and you should be inspired to write your own patterns. If you can create your own designs, then you can go ahead and write them for someone else to make up as well. All right, this next question is on Instagram. What made you passionate about starting your career in crocheting and writing patterns? Was it a difficult leap, or did you find it to be easy? I really love this question because I can talk about what it was like at the very beginning. I'll never forget the conversation my husband and I had. Actually, we were living in Casper, Wyoming, and about to have our first kid, and he had a full-time job and I had a part-time one, and he asked me what I wanted to do. Do I want to work? Do I want to stay home? What do I want to do? Basically, which to some people would be a terrifying question. And sometimes we have those questions, like when you're graduating high school, everyone's like, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? I don't know. But for this season, what did I want to do? So I told him with a very, I think I was 8 months pregnant, a very large belly, I wanted to write and I wanted to crochet. I wasn't writing crochet patterns at the time. I was doing craft fairs and making hats for people. I thought it would be a great thing I could do with my baby, and he could come along to the craft fairs, and he did. I'd sit there and have a big cover, and I'd be nursing him, and people would be buying hats from me, which was pretty amusing, but it worked really well. It was perfect. I did that for, I don't remember how many years, 4 maybe years. Had 3 kids in that time, and did craft fairs all during that time, sold things on Facebook. People would ask me, can you make a hippo hat? Can you make a horse hat? Can you make a dinosaur hat? And I would just make up the pattern and make these hats for people. And I got a lot of business, and I got burnt out. I crocheted so much, and I realized I can't crochet any more than I am right now. And since I've made up all of these designs, I could write them for other people to use. So here enters my college roommate, Monica. She's a photographer and really good at what she does. She really made everything I did shine. Just, it was beautiful, the two of us working together. So there started my pattern writing. I think my daughter, Iva, who's the youngest, was 1, and now she's 7 years old. Ben, my oldest, is about to be 11. So that kind of tells you the timeline of how long this has taken. So after that, I started writing patterns, switched over, stopped crocheting, and really haven't looked back. So it was easy and not easy. It was easy transitions as far as like mentally, but actually like the learning curve of figuring out where to sell patterns, how to write a PDF, how to write a pattern. I mean, all of those things were difficult along the way, but it just felt like a really natural flow from one thing to the next in my life. Thanks for watching, and I am trying to get my YouTube channel going and get up to 1,000 followers. I'd love to share more crochet things with you guys and inspiration, and I need more people to subscribe. So if you look down and hit the subscribe button and tell your friends, we'll have more tutorials and hopefully more of these kind of sessions where you can ask questions and I can answer them. So if you hop down to the comments at the bottom, you can ask questions there, and I'd love to answer them. So have a good rest of your day.